The hospital room smelled like bleach and something else I couldn't name. Fear, maybe, or resignation. The kind of smell that clings to places where people's lives change without warning. I'd been staring at the acoustic ceiling tiles for what felt like hours, counting the tiny holes, when I heard their footsteps in the hallway. Not the soft shuffle of nurses. Not the hurried clip of doctors running between emergencies. These were deliberate, purposeful. The sound of people who'd rehearsed what they were about to say. The door opened. Jason first, then Chloe trailing behind like a shadow. No flowers. No, "How are you feeling, Mom?" No hand reaching for mine the way it used to when he was 7 and scared of thunderstorms. Just my son, 35 years old, standing at the foot of my hospital bed with his jaw set and his wife's hand on his elbow. "Mom," Jason said. Not "Hi, Mom," or "Hey, how are you?" Just my title, flat and transactional, like he was addressing a client. "We need to talk." I pressed the button to raise the bed. The motor whirred, buying me 5 seconds to study his face. When had the softness left it? When had my boy, the one who used to cry at dog food commercials, learned to look at me like I was a problem to be solved? "Talk," I said. My voice came out rougher than I intended. 3 days post-stroke will do that. Chloe stepped forward, her smile the kind that never reaches the eyes. "Rebecca, we know this is hard timing, but—" "We're moving," Jason cut in, "to Portland. I've already transferred the house to my name." He paused, and I watched something flicker across his face. Guilt, maybe, or just impatience. "You'll need to start looking for a place to live. We're thinking by the end of next month." The heart monitor beeped. Steady, which was strange because inside my chest everything had gone very still. "Transferred," I repeated. Not a question. A word I was testing on my tongue, seeing if it tasted like betrayal. It did. "The paperwork's done," Chloe added quickly. "It's cleaner this way. Estate planning, you know. Better for everyone." Better for everyone. I'd taught English for 32 years. I knew when words were being used as weapons. "That's interesting," I said slowly. I let the silence stretch until Jason shifted his weight. "But you forgot to check something." His brow furrowed. "What?" I smiled then. Not warm, not forgiving. The smile of a woman who'd spent 3 days in a hospital bed with nothing to do but think. "I canceled the transfer yesterday." The color drained from Chloe's face. Jason's mouth opened, closed, opened again like a fish drowning in air. "You... what?" "I called the county clerk's office Tuesday afternoon. Revoked the entire thing. You should have moved faster, honey." I let the endearment hang there, poisonous. "Or maybe you should have asked first." Chloe recovered first. She always did. "Rebecca, you're confused. The stroke, the medications." "My mind is fine." I looked at Jason, really looked at him. "But I'm starting to wonder about yours." He took a step back, his hand falling from the bed rail. For just a moment, barely a heartbeat, I saw my son again. The boy who'd scraped his knee at 12 and sobbed in my lap. The teenager who'd cried when his father died and whispered, "What do we do now, Mom?" Then Chloe touched his arm and the mask came back. "We'll talk about this later," he said. "Yes," I agreed. "We will." They left without another word. The door clicked shut, and I was alone again with the beeping monitor and the fluorescent lights, and the certain knowledge that my son had just tried to steal my home. I didn't cry. Crying could come later. Instead, I reached for my phone and started making a list. 6 months ago, before I understood what was coming, we'd had Thanksgiving at my house. Madison flew in from Chicago with Anthony, her husband of 2 years. Jason and Chloe drove from their condo on the east side. We ate turkey and mashed potatoes at the dining room table my late husband David had built 40 years ago, and for a few hours, I let myself believe we were still a family. "Pass the gravy, Mom," Jason had said, and when our fingers touched on the bowl, he'd squeezed my hand. Quick, barely there. But I'd felt it. That was before the startup failed, before the debt, before Chloe's eyes started measuring my furniture like she was pricing it for auction. "Rebecca, this house is so much for one person," Chloe had said, her voice honey-sweet as she helped me clear plates. Have you ever thought about downsizing? There are lovely senior communities. I'm 62, not 90, I'd laughed. And David built this place. I'm not leaving it. She'd smiled. Of course not. Just thinking ahead. Thinking ahead. That's what she'd called it. Madison found me in the kitchen an hour later, elbow deep in soapy water. Mom, she kept her voice low, glancing toward the living room where Jason and Anthony were watching football. Has Jason been asking about your will? He mentioned it once or twice. I scrubbed at a stubborn bit of cranberry sauce. Why? Because he asked me last week if I knew how you were splitting things. When I said 50-50, I assume he got weird. Started talking about how he's the one who lives closer, how he could manage your affairs better. I'd set down the plate. Madison, I'm probably overreacting. But her eyes said she wasn't. Just be careful, okay? Chloe's got him twisted up about money. I'd hugged her, told her not to worry, told her Jason was just stressed. I'd been wrong. That night, after everyone left, I'd found Jason standing in my bedroom doorway, staring at the built-in bookshelves David had installed, the hardwood floors we'd refinished together, the bay window that caught the morning light just right. You okay, honey? I'd asked. He'd startled. Yeah, just remembering. Dad spent a whole summer on those shelves. He wanted everything perfect for you kids. Jason had nodded, but his eyes were calculating something I didn't understand yet. Must be worth a lot now. The house, I mean. Location alone. I haven't thought about it. Maybe you should. He'd kissed my cheek. Love you, Mom. Love you too. But standing there in the doorway, I'd felt something cold settle in my stomach. A mother's intuition, maybe. Or just the first whisper of the truth. He didn't love the house. He didn't love the memories. He loved what he could get for it. The taxi dropped me at home 3 days after the hospital confrontation. Jason didn't offer to pick me up. He sent a text. Busy with Realtor today. Can Madison get you? Realtor. The word sat in my chest like a stone. I paid the driver, declined his help with my small overnight bag, and stood on the sidewalk looking at my house. The cedar siding David had stained a warm honey color, the purple clematis climbing the mailbox post, the porch where I'd taught both my children to tie their shoes. It looked the same, but I knew better. The key stuck in the lock. It always did on humid days, and when I finally got the door open, the house smelled wrong. Not bad, just occupied, like someone had been breathing my air. I set my bag down carefully, listened. Nothing. The living room looked normal. Same couch, same coffee table, same Afghans folded over the armchair. But the rug was crooked. Jason hated crooked things. Since he was 10 years old, he'd automatically straighten pictures, align silverware, adjust anything off-center. Someone had been here. Recently, I walked slowly through the first floor. Kitchen, cabinet slightly ajar. Bathroom, towel on the wrong hook. My office. Desk drawer pushed in too hard, the way it jams if you don't know the trick. The wooden bowl where I kept spare keys and a USB drive had been moved. Just half an inch. But I'd kept that bowl in the exact same spot for 15 years. The USB drive was gone. My hands started shaking. I gripped the desk edge until my knuckles went white. It was just old lesson plans and scanned recipes. Nothing important. But that wasn't the point. The point was someone had looked, searched, felt entitled to rifle through my things while I lay in a hospital bed, wondering if I'd ever see my home again. I checked the rest of the office. My file cabinet, recently opened, the drawer mechanism still loose. The safe behind my teaching awards. Combination dial turned like someone had tried it. They didn't get in. David had set that combination to our wedding anniversary. And Jason wouldn't remember. He'd been 4 years old. I sat down at my desk. My whole body felt heavy, like gravity had doubled. This wasn't paranoia. This wasn't post-stroke confusion. This was violation. I opened my laptop and checked my email. 3 messages from the county clerk's office confirming my revocation. 2 from my bank about unusual activity concerns. One from a realtor I'd never heard of. Dear Mrs. Brown, your son contacted me regarding the sale of 847 Hawthorne Street. Please call at your earliest convenience to discuss listing strategy. Listing strategy. I closed the laptop before I threw it. For a long time, I just sat there, breathing. In through the nose, out through the mouth, the way they'd taught me in the hospital to keep my blood pressure down. Then I opened my desk drawer, the one that didn't jam, and pulled out a composition notebook. The same kind I'd used for lesson planning for 32 years. Page 1, what I know. Page 2, what I suspect. Page 3, what they think I don't know. I started writing. The knock came at 2:17 a.m. I woke from shallow sleep on the couch, my heart already racing. I'd been half expecting this, had left the porch light off and the downstairs dark on purpose. Not a knock, I realized as my eyes adjusted. The sound of metal on metal. A key turning in a lock. The back door. I stood slowly, my joints protesting. Moved to the window that overlooked the small backyard. The security light had burned out last month, but the neighbor's floodlight cast just enough glow. 2 figures. One tall, one shorter. Jason and Chloe. My son was crouched at my back door, trying keys from a ring. Old keys, I realized, from before I'd changed the locks. Damn it, his voice carried through the summer night. She changed them. I told you she would. Chloe's whisper was sharp. She's not as confused as you thought. She's 72, 62, I muttered from my dark window. And just had a stroke, Jason continued. The lawyer said if we move fast on the conservatorship angle. We need to be in the house first, Chloe interrupted. The pictures, the documentation of unsafe conditions. That's what Dr. Foster said would help. My blood went cold. Dr. Foster. They'd talked to a doctor about me. Jason tried another key, then another. When the 4th one failed, he stood up, frustrated. We should just... No! Chloe grabbed his arm. We do this right. Legal. She's set up defenses now, which means she's talked to someone. We can't give them ammunition. She's my mother. She's an obstacle, and obstacles get moved. The way she said it, flat, matter of fact, like I was a piece of furniture blocking a doorway. Jason didn't argue. They left through the back gate, car doors closing softly on the street. Engine starting. Headlights washing across my ceiling as they drove away. I stood in the dark for a long time after, my phone in my hand, thumb hovering over 911. But I didn't call. Calling the police meant reports. Reports meant Jason's name in an official document. His career could survive that. Barely, but it would mark him. And despite everything, despite the theft and the lies and the cold calculation in his voice, he was still my son. Instead, I opened my camera and photographed everything. The back door showing scratch marks from attempted key entry. The window view of my yard with timestamp. A video of me walking through the house, narrating what I'd heard, when I'd heard it. Then I saved everything to 3 different cloud services and emailed copies to myself with the subject line. Evidence, keep. Tomorrow, I'd call a lawyer. Tonight, I sat on my couch until dawn, listening to my house settle, and understanding with perfect clarity that this was no longer a family conflict. This was war. And I'd just chosen to fight back. The morning light felt different, sharper, like someone had turned up the contrast on the world. I made coffee, real coffee, not the decaf the hospital had pushed, and sat at my kitchen table with my composition notebook and my phone. First call, Linda Brown. David's sister, 65, retired from real estate law, and the closest thing to a mother I'd had since my own died. She answered on the second ring. Rebecca, everything okay? No, I said. I need help. 10 minutes later, she was in her car. 20 minutes after that, she was sitting across from me, reading through my notes, her jaw getting tighter with each page. That little bastard, she finally said. David would kill him. David's not here. But I am. She looked up, and I saw steel in her eyes. Steel that reminded me why corporate sharks had feared her in court. And Jason's about to learn that fucking with family has consequences. I'd never heard Linda swear before. It was oddly comforting. Second call, Madison. Mom? Her voice was thick with sleep. Chicago was an hour ahead. What's wrong? Everything. But I'm handling it. Handling what? I told her. All of it. The hospital, the attempted transfer, the 2 a.m. visit. Silence. Then, I'm getting on a plane. No. Mom. Madison, listen. I need you to be my safety net, not in the line of fire. Stay there. Keep your job. But be ready if I need you. Ready for what? To be my witness. My proof that I'm competent and making my own decisions. Another pause. You're scaring me. Good. That means you understand how serious this is. I'm going to call Jason. Don't. Not yet. Promise me. Mom. Promise. She promised. But I heard the fury in her voice. My daughter was a fighter. She got that from me. Third action. County clerk's office. The building smelled like old paper and fluorescent lights. The clerk who helped me was maybe 25, bored, chewing gum. I need confirmation that my property transfer was revoked, I said. She typed, frowned, typed more. Yeah, it was canceled, but there's... Huh? What? There were 2 attempts. Your son filed twice, once in May, once last week. Both rejected because they didn't have your notarized signature. He forged my signature? She glanced at me, suddenly less bored. I can't say that officially, but the county notary flagged both submissions as requiring verification. They were never processed. Can I get copies? Official ones? Sure, but it'll cost you. I don't care what it costs. She printed everything, stamped it, certified it. I walked out with a folder of evidence that felt like a shield. Final call. The number Linda had given me. Sullivan Investigations, a gravel voice answered. Marcus Sullivan? Speaking. Linda Brown referred me. I need surveillance on my son. A pause. Ma'am, I usually do corporate. He's trying to steal my house. He broke in at 2 a.m. last night, and I need to know what else he's planning. Another pause. Longer. Give me the address. I did. I'll be there tomorrow. And Mrs. Brown, Linda doesn't refer people unless it's serious, so I'll take this seriously. Thank you. When I hung up, my coffee was cold, but I felt warmer than I had in days. Linda was still reading my notes. She looked up and something passed between us. Understanding. Resolution. You ready for this? She asked. No, I admitted, but I'm doing it anyway. She smiled. David picked a good one. So did Jason. He just forgot. Linda closed the notebook. Then let's remind him. Martha Parker's law office occupied a converted Victorian on Maple Street, the kind of building that leaned slightly to one side and creaked when you walked upstairs. The paint was peeling. The mailbox was rusted. But the brass nameplate on the door was polished to a high shine. Parker and Associates, Family Law. There were no associates, just Martha, 68 years old, reading glasses on a beaded chain, and a reputation for chewing up opposing counsel and spitting out settlements. She'd taught American history at Jefferson High for 30 years before going to law school at 50. My mother had been her mentor teacher. Rebecca Harper. She stood when I entered, pulling me into a hug that smelled like peppermint tea and case files. When Linda called, I canceled my afternoon. I don't want to be a burden. Sit. She pointed at the chair across from her desk. And don't you dare apologize for needing help. I sat, opened my folder, slid it across the mahogany surface that had probably been in this office since 1947. Martha read in silence. Her expression didn't change, but I watched her jaw tighten incrementally with each page. When she finished, she removed her glasses and rubbed the bridge of her nose. 2 attempted forgeries, unauthorized property claims, breaking and entering, conspiracy to file false conservatorship. She looked up. Rebecca, this isn't a family dispute. This is elder abuse. Criminal elder abuse. The words hung in the air like smoke. He's my son, I said quietly. and you're his victim. Martha, no! Her voice was gentle but firm. We're not doing this. We're not making excuses for him because you changed his diapers. He's an adult who made adult choices, and those choices have adult consequences. My eyes burned. I blinked hard. Martha softened. I'm not saying you can't love him. I'm saying you can't let that love destroy you. She pulled out a legal pad. Here's what we're going to do. For the next hour, she outlined a strategy that felt less like defense and more like siege warfare. First, a formal notice of fraud filed with the county, creating an official record that Jason had attempted property theft. Second, a court watch request, meaning any conservatorship petition filed in my name would trigger immediate notification to me and Martha. Third, a cease and desist letter, legally prohibiting Jason and Chloe from contacting me, entering my property, or discussing my affairs with any third parties without my written consent. That last one's the hammer, Martha said. If they violate it, we have grounds for a restraining order. And if they violate that, it's jail time. Will it stop them? It'll make them think twice. She started typing. I'll have everything drafted by tomorrow. You'll sign, we'll file, and then we wait. For what? For them to make a mistake. Because they will, Rebecca. People like this always do. The library had been my sanctuary for 5 years, ever since I'd retired from teaching and needed somewhere to go that wasn't my empty house. Diane Rodriguez ran the place like a benevolent dictator. Books perfectly alphabetized, late fees enforced with iron precision, but story time for kids every Saturday morning without fail. She found me in the gardening section, pulling books I'd already read. You're hiding, she said. I'm researching. You've read that book 3 times. She took it from my hands. What's going on? I told her. Not everything, not the raw, ugly details, but enough. Diane's eyes went dark. She'd immigrated from Mexico at 19, built a life from nothing, put 2 kids through college on a librarian's salary. She understood fighting for what was yours. You need a place to breathe, she said. My office, any time. Door's always unlocked for you. Diane, and if that son of yours shows up here asking questions about you, I'll tell him to go fuck himself. I laughed. Actual laughter. It felt strange, like I'd forgotten how. Come on. She linked her arm through mine. I'm making you tea, and you're going to sit in the break room until you look less like you're about to shatter. Margaret Davis had lived across the street from me for 30 years. We'd watched each other's children grow up, borrowed cups of sugar, complained about property taxes. Her husband Thomas had retired from the police force a decade ago, spent his days woodworking in their garage. She knocked on my door that evening with a casserole dish and a grim expression. Tom saw your son trying your back door at 2 a.m. last week, she said without preamble. He was going to say something, but I told him to wait. Didn't want to cause family trouble. I took the casserole. I appreciate that, but nothing. Tom's keeping a log now. Time, date, vehicle description. Every time Jason or that wife of his comes near your property. She straightened. You're not alone in this, Rebecca. This street takes care of its own. After she left, I'd stood in my doorway watching the neighborhood. Mrs. Patterson watering her roses. The Morrison kids playing basketball. Old Mr. Henderson walking his ancient beagle. Community. I'd forgotten what it felt like. Marcus Sullivan showed up on Tuesday driving a nondescript gray sedan and carrying a camera bag that probably cost more than my first car. Mrs. Brown. He shook my hand. Firm grip, calloused. Let's talk about your son. We sat in my living room. I gave him everything. Names, addresses, the timeline of events, copies of the forged documents. How far do you want me to go? He asked. All the way. I need to know what I'm dealing with. Even if it's ugly? Especially if it's ugly. He nodded. I'll start with financials. Most family theft comes down to money. Once we know what they need, we'll know what they'll do to get it. He left with his camera bag and my check for the retainer. A week later, he came back with a file 2 inches thick. Your son, Marcus said, spreading papers across my kitchen table, is drowning. The numbers swam before my eyes. $200,000 from a failed tech startup called TechBridge Solutions. Company dissolved 18 months ago, creditors still circling. $80,000 in credit card debt. Chloe's cards, exclusively. Nordstrom, Saks, Tiffany. Shopping wasn't retail therapy for her. It was a compulsion. "There's more," Marcus said. "Payday loans, 3 of them. Total $60,000 at rates that would make a loan shark blush." Jesus! I sat down hard. It gets worse. He pulled out printed emails. "These are from Chloe's account. She's not careful with passwords." I should have felt guilty reading my daughter-in-law's private correspondence. I didn't. Jason's too soft. I'm pushing the conservatorship angle. His mom just had a stroke. Courts will believe she's incompetent. The house appraises at $450K. We clear our debts and have enough left for the Portland move. It's perfect. He feels guilty. I told him it's temporary, that we're helping her. He'll come around. My hands trembled. I set the emails down before I tore them. "There's audio, too," Marcus said quietly. "I followed Jason to Murphy's bar last Thursday. He met with a friend. I got most of the conversation." He pressed play on a small recorder. Jason's voice slurred at the edges. "I don't want to do this to Mom, but Chloe says if we don't move fast, we lose everything. The house, the cars, everything." Another voice. "Man, that's your mom. You can't just—" "I know, Tyler, I know. But she's alone too much anyway, right? Maybe she'd be better off somewhere with people around. A facility or whatever." "You really believe that?" A pause, long enough to damn him. "I don't know what I believe anymore. I just know I'm out of options." The recording ended. I sat in silence, feeling something crack open inside my chest. "He's not a monster," I said finally. My voice sounded distant, like it belonged to someone else. "No," Marcus agreed. "He's weak, and weak men with strong women behind them do terrible things. Chloe's controlling him. Chloe's the architect. Jason's the bulldozer." Marcus gathered the papers. "But intent doesn't matter in court. Actions do. And his actions constitute fraud, attempted theft, and conspiracy." "What would you do? If this was your mother?" Marcus looked at me for a long moment. "I'd protect her, no matter what it cost." He paused. "But I'd also hope she could find a way to save her son from himself, if he's worth saving." After he left, I sat at the kitchen table until the sun went down, staring at the emails, listening to the recording on repeat. Chloe was the villain, but Jason was the weapon, and I didn't know if I could stop one without destroying the other. The gifts started arriving 3 days later. First, a tablet. Top of the line, $800 easy. The note in Chloe's handwriting. "To help you manage things, Mom. We love you." I photographed it. Box, note, everything. Left it unopened on the hall table. The next day, dinner delivery. Thai food from the expensive place downtown. Another note. "You shouldn't have to cook while recovering. Love, J and C." I photographed that, too. Fed it to Margaret's dog. Flowers arrived Monday. Lilies, my least favorite, but Chloe had never bothered to learn that. The card. "Thinking of you." I documented everything. Time of delivery, contents, the manipulation disguised as care. But it was the social media campaign that made my blood pressure spike. Diane showed me on her phone at the library. Chloe's Facebook, posted that morning. "Heavy heart today. Jason and I are so worried about his sweet mother living alone after her stroke. She's always been so independent. But at her age, is independence just stubbornness? Praying for wisdom as we figure out how to help her, even when she doesn't want it." Family first elder care. 43 comments, most sympathetic, some suggesting gentle intervention. One from someone named Brenda. "Sometimes you have to make hard choices for their own good, hun. My mom fought us on assisted living, too." "That manipulative bitch," Diane muttered. "She's building a narrative." "I know." My voice was steady, but inside, rage was building like a thunderstorm. "She's making me look stubborn and declining, making them look like concerned caregivers." "What are you going to do?" "Nothing." Nothing? If I respond, I look defensive. If I fight her publicly, it proves I'm difficult. So I document, stay quiet, and let her build a case that falls apart the moment someone looks at the evidence. Diane studied me. You've changed. I've adapted. The phone call came Tuesday evening. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Mrs. Brown, this is Dr. Graham Foster. I'm calling about the cognitive assessment your son scheduled. Stop! My voice was ice. I haven't authorized any assessment. Well, your son expressed concerns about who's paying you, Dr. Foster. Silence. Then, I'm not at liberty. My son is attempting to have me declared incompetent so he can steal my house. You're part of that attempt. And when I take him to court, your name will be in the paperwork as a co-conspirator. Mrs. Brown, I assure you, are you licensed in this state? Of course. Then you know that conducting assessments without patient consent is grounds for a formal complaint. How's your malpractice insurance? The line went dead. I called Martha immediately. She answered mid-laugh at something on TV. They hired a doctor to evaluate me, I said. Her laughter stopped. Names. I need names. The counterstrike came the next morning. I drove to Dr. Patricia Williams's office, my actual doctor, who'd been monitoring my health for 20 years. Rebecca. She looked up from her chart. Your blood pressure's excellent. Stroke recovery is ahead of schedule. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. I need a favor. Name it. I need documentation that I'm cognitively sound. Notarized. Official. Bulletproof. Patricia's eyes narrowed. Someone questioning your competence? Someone trying to use my stroke as proof I can't make my own decisions. She pulled out her prescription pad, wrote for a full minute, then signed, dated, and sealed it in an envelope. This is my formal medical opinion that you are of sound mind, capable of managing your own affairs, and show no signs of cognitive impairment. It's also dated today, which means it supersedes any evaluation anyone else tries to produce. Thank you. And Rebecca? Whoever's coming after you, destroy them. Madison arrived without warning on Thursday. I opened the door to find my daughter standing on the porch, suitcase in hand, fury radiating off her like heat. Don't tell me to go home, she said. Madison, I'm not leaving. Not until this is over. She pushed past me into the house. Where is he? Who? Jason, that fucking coward. I'd never heard my daughter use that word. She saved profanity for special occasions. Madison, sit. Please. She sat. Barely. Perched on the edge of the couch like she might spring up and hunt Jason down at any moment. 3 months ago, she said, voice shaking, Jason called me, asked about your will. When I said 50-50 split, he got weird. Started talking about how he handles things better because he lives closer. You told me that. But I didn't tell you about the follow-up email. She pulled out her phone. He sent this 6 weeks later. I read, Madison, have you thought about Portland? Chloe and I could use your medical expertise in a startup we're planning. We'd pay you well, once we liquidate some assets. Think about it. Jay, my stomach turned. Assets. Your house, Mom. He was already planning to sell it, already thinking about what to do with the money. She looked up, eyes wet. And I recorded his first call, the one where he asked about the will. You recorded your brother? Illinois is one-party consent. I can record my own calls. She pulled up an audio file. You need to hear this. Jason's voice filled my living room. Look, I'm just trying to plan ahead. Mom's getting older. The stroke scared me. If something happens, we need to be ready to move quickly on the estate. Jason, that's morbid. It's practical. And honestly, Madison, you're in Chicago. You can't manage property from there. It makes sense for everything to come to me. And I'll cut you in fairly. Cut me in on our mother's house? Don't make it sound shady. I'm talking about being responsible. The recording stopped. Madison's hands were fists. He wasn't waiting for you to die, she said. He was planning for it. Hoping for it, maybe. The room tilted. I gripped the couch cushion. Mom? I'm okay, but I wasn't. I was listening to my son discuss my death like it was a business opportunity. Madison moved beside me, wrapped her arm around my shoulders. I'm sorry. For what? For not telling you sooner. For not protecting you. You were protecting him. From me. I looked at her. You didn't want me to see what he'd become. She nodded, tears spilling over. We sat like that for a while, my daughter and I, grieving the man my son used to be. Friday afternoon, Martha's office. She'd called an emergency meeting. Linda was already there. Marcus sat in the corner, arms crossed. Madison stood by the window, still wound tight. Martha spread documents across the conference table like cards in a deadly hand of poker. Ladies and gentlemen, she said, we have enough to bury them. She walked us through it. Document fraud. 2 forged transfer attempts, both with signature analysis proving Jason had signed my name. Breaking and entering. Photos, timestamps, witness testimony from Thomas Davis. Attempted elder abuse. Dr. Foster's involvement. Emails proving premeditation. Recordings showing intent to manipulate my medical status. Financial conspiracy. Marcus's investigation revealing the $340,000 debt and motive for theft. Admission of intent. Madison's recording of Jason discussing estate liquidation. This isn't a civil case anymore, Martha said. This is criminal. We could file charges that would send both of them to prison. Both? I asked. Chloe's the architect. The emails prove she's driving this. Jason's the co-conspirator. Martha leaned forward. But here's the thing. Criminal prosecution is a nuclear option. Once we pull that trigger, there's no taking it back. What's the alternative? Leverage. She tapped the documents. We confront them privately, give them a choice. Sign a legally binding agreement to cease all contact and claims, or we file criminal charges. And if they don't believe we'll do it? Martha smiled. It was not a nice smile. Then we show them we're not bluffing, Linda spoke up. Rebecca, this is your decision, but you need to understand. If you give Jason this chance and he doesn't take it, we go to war. No mercy, no second chances. I looked at the documents, my son's name on every one. How long before we'd need to act? I can have everything filed Monday morning, Martha said. Or we can arrange a meeting this weekend. Your choice. Madison's voice from the window. Don't give him another chance, Mom. He doesn't deserve it. No, I said quietly. But maybe I do. They all looked at me. They all looked. I need to look him in the eye one more time. Give him the choice. See if there's anything left of the boy I raised. I met Martha's gaze. And if there isn't, then we burn it all down. Martha nodded slowly. Then let's set the meeting. She pulled out her phone, started typing. And I sat there, surrounded by evidence of my son's betrayal, and wondered if I was being merciful or just foolish. Maybe both. Maybe it didn't matter. By Monday, one way or another, this would end. The email went out Friday evening. Short, cold, undeniable. To Jason Brown. CC Chloe. Brown's subject, final meeting. Jason, Saturday, 2 p.m. My house. Bring Chloe. We need to discuss your future, and mine. This is not optional. Mom, I hit send before I could second-guess myself. Watched the message disappear into the digital void. Imagined it landing in Jason's inbox like a grenade. My phone buzzed within minutes. Jason, Mom, what's this about? Can we talk now? I didn't respond. Jason, is everything okay? Silence. Jason, we'll be there. 2 p.m. I set the phone down. My hands were steady. That surprised me. Madison appeared in the doorway, Anthony behind her. You sure about this? No, but I'm doing it anyway. Anthony, quiet, steady Anthony who'd married my daughter 3 years ago and never said much, spoke up. Want me there? In the room? No, upstairs, within earshot. I looked at him. But thank you. He nodded. Understood. Sometimes the best support is silent presence. Saturday morning arrived with oppressive humidity, the kind that made the air feel solid. I woke at dawn, made coffee I didn't drink, sat at the kitchen table planning like I used to plan lessons. Martha would be in the dining room, door cracked, listening. Marcus in his car outside, recording from across the street with a telephoto lens. Madison and Anthony upstairs in the guest room, ready to come down if things went south. Thomas Davis next door had been briefed. He'd keep watch from his front window, phone in hand, 911 on speed dial. I wasn't alone. That mattered. At noon, I set up the living room, moved the coffee table to create clear sightlines for the hidden camera Martha had installed in the bookshelf, positioned chairs so Jason and Chloe would sit with their backs to the window, backlit, easier to read micro-expressions. Details, control, the only weapons I had left. 1 o'clock. I changed clothes 3 times, settled on a simple blue blouse and slacks. Professional, put together. The opposite of the confused, declining woman Chloe's Facebook posts described. 1:30. Martha arrived through the back door, her briefcase heavy with documents. She squeezed my hand. "You've got this. And if I don't, then I do." She disappeared into the dining room. 1:45. A text from Jason, running a few minutes late. Of course. One last power play. Make me wait. Make me anxious. I sat on the couch and opened a book. Didn't read a word, but when they arrived, I wanted them to see me calm. Unshaken. 2:07. The doorbell rang. I counted to 10, stood, walked slowly to the door, opened it. Jason stood on my porch looking like he hadn't slept. Dark circles under his eyes, wrinkled shirt, 3-day stubble. Behind him, Chloe was immaculate, hair perfect, makeup flawless, dress that probably cost more than my monthly grocery bill. The contrast was deliberate. Chloe wanted me to see what she was. Polished, in control, superior. "Mom," Jason's voice cracked slightly. Come in." I stepped aside. They entered. Jason's eyes darted around like he was cataloging exits. Chloe walked straight to the couch, sat down like she owned it. "Can I get you something to drink?" I asked. Pure reflex, 40 years of Southern hospitality dying hard. "We're fine," Chloe said. I ignored her. "Jason?" He looked at Chloe. She gave a tiny head shake. "I'm good, Mom." So it was like that. She was giving him permission to speak, or withholding it. I sat in the armchair across from them, the chair David used to read in, where he'd fallen asleep countless nights with the newspaper on his chest. "I'll get straight to it," I said. "You tried to steal my house." Jason opened his mouth. Chloe's hand landed on his knee. "That's a very dramatic interpretation," Chloe said smoothly. "We were trying to help you transition by forging my signature twice." Silence. I pulled the folder from beside the chair, opened it slowly, let them see the county clerk stamps, the signature analysis reports, the photographs. "These are certified copies of 2 property transfer attempts, both with my signature forged, both filed by Jason." I looked at my son. "Want to explain?" His face had gone gray. That was a misunderstanding. You misunderstood how signatures work?" "Mom, the lawyer said it would be easier if—" "What lawyer?" He floundered. Looked at Chloe again. She stepped in. "Rebecca, you're twisting this. Jason was trying to streamline estate planning. You just had a stroke. You thought I'd be too confused to notice." I pulled out the next document. Photos of them at my back door at 2 a.m. "Is this also estate planning?" Jason's eyes widened. "You were watching?" "My neighbor was. Thomas Davis, retired police officer. He's been documenting every unauthorized visit you've made to this property." I watched Jason's Adam's apple bob as he swallowed hard. "There's more." I spread the emails across the coffee table like tarot cards predicting doom. "These are your wife's communications discussing how to have me declared incompetent, how to push the conservatorship angle, how my house will solve all your financial problems." Chloe's composure cracked. Just a hairline fracture, but I saw it. "Those are private. They're evidence." I pulled out Marcus's financial report of a conspiracy to commit elder abuse motivated by this. $340,000 in debt. The number hung in the air like smoke from a gun. Jason's face crumbled. Not anger, shame. Raw, devastating shame. Mom, You what? My voice was quiet, dangerous. You were going to tell me? Ask for help? Or were you just going to let me find out when I was standing on the street with my belongings because my son stole my home? It wasn't supposed to be like that. The words burst out of him like a confession. I never meant. And then my son started crying. Not the careful, controlled tears of manipulation, the ugly, shoulder-shaking sobs of someone breaking under the weight of their own actions. I'm sorry, he gasped. God, Mom, I'm so sorry. Chloe stared at him like he'd grown a second head. Jason, I'm drowning. He wasn't talking to her. He was talking to me. Only me. The business failed. I kept borrowing, thinking I could fix it. Chloe said we needed to move fast, that your house was the answer, that you'd be better off somewhere smaller anyway. I never said that, Chloe snapped. And I believed her because I wanted to, because it was easier than admitting I'd failed. He looked up at me, eyes red and swollen. But it wasn't about you being better off. It was about me being too much of a coward to face what I'd done. Something in my chest twisted. This was my son, the real one, finally visible through the cracks in his lies. Jason, stop! Chloe's voice had gone hard, cold. You're making this worse. How could it possibly be worse? He laughed, bitter, broken. She knows everything. We're done. We're not done. We're regrouping. Chloe turned to me, and her mask was gone, completely gone. What looked back at me was something calculating and merciless. Rebecca, let's be adults here. I'm listening. You're 62. You don't need this house. You could live another 20 years, maybe 30. And what are you going to do? Garden? Read books? Watch game shows? She leaned forward. We have our whole lives ahead of us. We have potential, plans, dreams that require resources. My resources. Resources you're hoarding out of stubbornness. The word landed like a slap. Chloe. Jason's voice was barely a whisper. What? It's true. She's being selfish. Chloe's eyes never left mine. We need this. She doesn't. It's simple math. Simple math, I repeated. Yes. One old woman in a house too big for her, or two people who could actually do something meaningful with the asset. Asset. I tasted the word. That's what I am to you. An asset. An obstacle between you and money. You're a resource being wasted. Something inside me went very, very cold. Get out of my house. Rebecca, get out. Chloe stood. You're making a mistake. We could have done this the easy way. The easy way was stealing from me while I was in the hospital? That was easy? It was practical. And if you force us to escalate, you'll what? I stood, and for the first time I let her see my rage. All of it. Burning cold and controlled. Sue me? Have me declared incompetent? Try. Please try. The dining room door opened. Martha Parker walked out with her briefcase. Both Jason and Chloe froze. Who the hell? Chloe started. Martha Parker, Mrs. Brown's attorney. She set her briefcase on the coffee table, opened it. I've been listening to this entire conversation, recording it actually with Mrs. Brown's consent, in her home, which makes it completely legal. The color drained from Chloe's face. Martha pulled out a thick document. This is a cease and desist order. Effective immediately, you are prohibited from contacting Mrs. Brown in any form without her written permission, coming within 500 feet of this property, making any claims regarding Mrs. Brown's assets or competence, or discussing Mrs. Brown with any medical, financial, or legal professionals. You can't, Chloe began. I can, and I have. Martha pulled out another document. This is a formal complaint to be filed with the county prosecutor detailing 2 counts of forgery, 1 count of attempted fraud, 1 count of elder abuse, and 1 count of conspiracy. I have witness statements, financial records, email evidence, and as of 3 minutes ago, a recorded confession. She looked at Jason, and her expression softened. Barely. You admitted to conspiracy, Jason, on tape, in front of witnesses. My son looked like he might be sick. Martha continued, her voice businesslike. Mrs. Brown has 2 options. Option 1, file criminal charges. You'd both face prison time. 2 to 5 years minimum. Chloe grabbed Jason's arm. He shook her off. Option 2, you sign this agreement. You leave. You never contact Mrs. Brown again unless she initiates it. You drop any and all claims to her property or estate. And maybe after you've gotten your lives together, proven you've changed, she might consider forgiving you. Martha held out a pen. But understand this. Her voice dropped to something deadly. If you violate this agreement, we don't give you another chance. We go straight to the prosecutor. No warnings, no mercy. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Jason reached for the pen. Don't you dare, Chloe hissed. He took it anyway. It's over, Chloe. Jason, it's over. He signed the document. His hand shook so badly he could barely write. I'm done. He set the pen down, looked at me. Mom, I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know I've destroyed everything, but I need you to know. His voice broke. I need you to know I'm ashamed. And I'm sorry. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to become someone you could be proud of again. I said nothing. Couldn't. My throat was too tight. Jason walked to the door, stopped. I love you. I forgot how to show it, but I do. Then he was gone. Chloe stood there, vibrating with fury. This isn't over. Yes, Martha said calmly. It is. You have no idea who you're dealing with. A woman facing felony charges if she doesn't leave in the next 30 seconds. Martha checked her watch. 29, 28. Chloe's eyes found mine. Pure hatred. You'll regret this. No, I said quietly. But you will. She left. The door slammed hard enough to rattle the windows. And then there was silence. Martha left an hour later with signed documents and a promise to file everything Monday morning. Marcus packed up his equipment. Madison and Anthony came downstairs, and my daughter held me while I didn't cry. You did it, she whispered. Did I? You protected yourself, that's all that matters. But that night alone in my house, I wasn't sure. I'd won. The house was mine. The threat was neutralized. Justice, or something like it, had been served. So why did it feel like losing? 2 weeks later, Madison flew back to Chicago. Life began its slow return to normal, or what passed for normal now. The library welcomed me back. Diane made me tea and didn't ask questions. Margaret Davis brought over casseroles until my freezer was full. Thomas waved from his yard each morning, a silent guardian. The mail brought a formal notice. Jason had filed for divorce. Chloe was contesting it. Their legal battle would be ugly and long and not my problem. 1 month after the confrontation, an envelope arrived with no return address. Inside, a letter. Jason's handwriting. Mom, I'm in therapy. Court-ordered, actually, part of the bankruptcy proceedings. Turns out when you lose everything, they make you talk to someone about why. I'm living in a studio apartment. Working 2 jobs. It's hard, but it's honest work, which is more than I can say for anything I did in the past 2 years. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just want you to know I'm trying. Trying to be the man Dad raised me to be. Trying to understand how I became someone who could hurt you. The therapist says I need to take responsibility without expecting anything in return. So that's what I'm doing. I was wrong. I was weak. I let Chloe manipulate me because it was easier than admitting I'd failed. And in the process, I betrayed the person who sacrificed everything for me. I don't know if you'll ever read this. If you do, please know. I'm ashamed. And I'm sorry. And I love you. Jason, I read it 3 times. Set it on the kitchen table, stared at it for a long time. Then I put it in a drawer, not thrown away, Not answered. Just C kept. 3 months later, another letter. This one was shorter. Mom, I paid off one of the payday loans. Only took every extra dollar I had, but it's done. 2 more to go. I'm still in therapy. Still working on myself. Still hoping that someday you might want to have coffee. Just talk. No expectations. I understand if the answer is no forever. I've earned that. J. I put that one in the drawer too. 6 months after the confrontation, I sat on my porch watching the neighborhood wake up. Mr. Henderson walked his beagle. The Morrison kids waited for the school bus. Margaret pruned her roses. My phone buzzed. Madison. Have you read Jason's letters? Me. Yes. Madison. Are you going to respond? Me. I don't know. Madison. Do you want to? I thought about that. Really thought about it. Me. Part of me does. Part of me doesn't. I'm not ready yet. Madison. That's okay, Mom. You get to decide when, or if. Me. Do you talk to him? Madison. Sometimes. He asks about you. I don't tell him much. Me. What's he like now? Madison. Different. Humbler. Broken in a way that might be healing. Madison. But that doesn't mean you owe him anything. Me. I know. That evening, Diane stopped by with wine and gossip. You look better, she said, settling into the porch rocker. Lighter. I feel lighter. You ever going to answer those letters? Everyone knew about the letters. Small-town life meant few secrets. Maybe, someday. I sipped my wine. But not because he needs me to, because I'm ready to. And if you're never ready, then I'm never ready, and that's okay, too. Diane raised her glass. To women who refuse to be victims. To women who fight back. We drank as the sun set over Hawthorne Street, painting the cedar siding gold. Late that night, I stood in my bedroom looking at the photos on the wall. Jason at 7, gap-toothed and grinning. Jason at 16, awkward in his prom tux. Jason at 22, college diploma in hand. David's arm around his shoulders. I didn't take them down, but I didn't add new ones either. They stayed where they were, a record of who he'd been, not who he'd become. Maybe someday there would be new photos. Maybe not. The house was still mine. The life was still mine. And so was the choice of whether to let him back in. For now, that was enough. I stood at my front window, looking out at the street David and I had moved to 40 years ago. The house he'd built shelves in. The yard where we'd taught our children to ride bikes. The porch where we'd grown old together until cancer took him too soon. This house held ghosts, but they were good ghosts. Memories I'd protected. A life I'd refused to surrender. People asked me sometimes if I regretted fighting back. If I regretted the confrontation that destroyed my relationship with my son. But they were asking the wrong question. Jason destroyed our relationship when he tried to steal my home. I simply refused to be his victim. There's a difference between being a bad mother and being a strong woman. I chose strength. I chose survival. I chose myself. And if that makes me hard or unforgiving in someone's eyes, well, I'd rather be hard and housed than soft and homeless. The letters keep coming. One a month like clockwork. Each one a little more honest. A little more broken. A little more like the son I used to know. I keep them all. In the drawer with the others. Maybe next month I'll read one and decide it's time to respond. Maybe I'll drive to that coffee shop he mentioned and sit across from him and see if there's anything left to salvage. Or maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just keep living in the house on Hawthorne Street, tending my garden, reading my books, surrounded by people who chose to protect me when my own son chose betrayal. Either way, it's my choice. My decision, my life. And nobody, not my son, not his wife, not anyone, gets to take that from me again. The house is mine, and so am I.